deliver their opening statement. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to questions. You will receive a 30-second warning and then a cutoff.
We will allow each candidate to rebuttal tonight to any question that is asked if they are directly mentioned by name, if the candidate would like the opportunity. We will have one 5-minute crossfire at the end of the debate. In this section, each candidate may ask their opponent any question they would like. Please be mindful of time restrictions. We will strive to ensure each candidate gets equal treatment. Finally, we will end with each candidate's 2-minute closing statements. Do the candidates have any questions?
Then we will begin the debate. Candidate Martin, please begin with your opening statement.
Well, I appreciate you having us here. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you have done in preparation for this debate. I appreciate all the support from people here and online. I thank you for tuning in. I'm very happy to really be here today. I think that it's important that we engage in these sorts of debates and make sure to get our positions out. I know tonight we're not going to get to everything, so I encourage you to check out our Facebook pages to get some more information, more discussion. But what I hopefully we can get out in the open here today is really some distinctions between the two candidates. If we are going to be working on an ag-centered ag tech park, I think I'm a great candidate. I've got an ag degree from the College of Agriculture and Food and Resource Economics. I hope to get into some of this detail a little bit further during the debate, but I also wanted to thank my opponent. I commend her service to our community this number of years.
Sorry.
What's that?
That's time.
Okay.
who live and work and play here in Newberry. And I look forward to talking about all this tonight. I look around at other communities and I realize what a foundation we have. An agricultural heritage, industries for good jobs, excellent schools, and a population that really cares for one another. I say thank you, Newberry, for all of that. And tonight, as I answer questions, I hope you'll see our vision, what we want for the future, and more importantly, how we can all work together to accomplish these things. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start with our first category, which is economic development / vision and growth questions. So, candidate Martin, do you support organizations such as the Main Street Organization in their effort to enhance economic development in Newberry's historic district? And if so, how do you support it? If not, why not?
I definitely support organizations that are citizen focused. I think that's a lot of the way the government should be run. Where there's potentially disagreement is the fact that I don't necessarily believe that the city coffers should be necessarily supporting those organizations. But we've taken a position on the commission that we push a lot of that stuff out to the private sector, to churches. And in the end, I think it's a better product because the people that are involved and the people that benefit are directly investing their time, their talent, and treasure. And I really think that's the better way to go.
Candidate Glanger. Some of your answers to the Sierra Club while running for county commission last year were very similar to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. Is that something you support, and how would you prepare Newberry for those restrictions?
Well, it's been a while since that forum, so I don't think I can remember all the questions, but I answered them honestly. The one that I had some controversy over was the Growth Management Act. And actually in that forum, I said that it's okay, because back when this all came to fruition back in the spring, I was asking around about it, and I understood that Newberry probably would not be affected by it so much because we're about 58 square miles and the footprint we have is so large that, you know, any impact the GMA would have on it was minor. As time went on and I started hearing more grumbling about it, and I realized this is definitely an impacts home rule, which I support heartily. So I walked it back. I changed my mind. I mean, I will change my mind when I listen to people and I hear both sides. So I think that was the controversy that happened from the Sierra Club interview. It's so complicated, all the questions, even the GMA, I might quote the mayor, he might not like this, but it's also flipping complicated. All these issues are. So we try the best we can to be clear with the citizens and follow our heart with it. But at times we have to listen to another side, and at times we change our mind. And that's what happened with that particular question. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to ask both of you the same question, but we're going to start with candidate Martin. So what is Newberry's strongest selling point in attracting economic development, and how will you help enhance that strength?
The first two things that come to mind are people and geography. I have often used the phrase character team that started back in 2015 at a football game, and one of the Eastside players that went down. And I saw our cheerleaders get in the circle and pray for that. I saw the football players get down and pray for that player. I saw the people in the stadium get up, and that really touched me because even when the player was getting really into the end, all the players just kind of filed up onto the half court and kind of help that player get on. It really touched me. We have such a great community. Look what we've done for hurricane victims. They sheltered out our fed all those people. That's kind of the standard that we're really known for at this point. Is really reaching out and helping when it's needed. We turn lemon to lime. We do a fantastic job. The geography also helps with that. Economic development because we're centrally located. We're 2 hours from most of the major cities in the state. Distribution companies to get their place in one day. On a long haul, the Pensacola or the geography helps, the infrastructure helps, the ability helps.
And candidate Flanzer.
Thank you. There's so many strengths we have in Newberry. But to start with, believe it or not, I would say it's our schools. When I started in real estate about 17 years ago, I used to get questions from people saying, what is our school district? And if I said it was in the rural community or the rural areas, they go, I don't want to be there. Fast forward to today, and the questions I'm getting are, is this house in the Newberry School District? What a turnaround. What an extraordinary thing we've done here. The schools have turned around like this, and people want to be here for that reason. And that is a huge engine driving our economic development. Also, the city is very open to working with new businesses. I frequently put on my Chamber of Commerce hat when I have investors in town, and I bring them to City Hall and I bring them to our staff, and they put on a presentation that when my people walk away, they're totally blown away by what we have here, what we have to offer. This small community may be small, but it is mighty. Newberry also has tools for economic development. The tax incentives, which we voted into when I was in office, actually are one of them. And we actually work to aid businesses coming into town, not to distract them or deter them. These are some things I don't think citizens are aware of, how hard our staff works behind the scenes to make sure that people have all the information they need and the professional presentation that they deserve. Looking forward, though, I do believe the Ag Tech Park is going to be the engine that drives our economic development in the future. It has the potential for putting Newberry on the international map, and I will work hard, as I already am, in making sure investors are aware of that plan and get all the information they need in order to make the decision whether or not to bring their business to Newberry. Thank you.
Our second question goes to candidate Lancer. Where do you see Newberry in 20 years?
Well, this is a good question. I have this unique perspective. 25 years ago, I guess it's been 26 years ago now, I was appointed to the Newberry Visionings Committee by the City Commission at that time. And we were tasked with looking forward 20 years to see where we thought the city should be. And we came up with 4 objectives. They were good schools, strong economic development, preserving our agricultural heritage, and having a formidable recreation department. I don't think anybody on that committee could have imagined where we are today. All those 4 issues, we've checked the boxes and gone far away beyond our dreams. But looking forward, I would say we want much of the same: stronger schools, continued success in our economic development, and an agricultural presence. I'll talk more here about the Ag Tech Park because this project does promise to be the future of Newberry. I see us being the Ag Tech capital of the country in 20 years. We have all the pieces to make this happen and the determination to get there. And it's almost serendipitous that the University of Florida decided to build their IFAS campus here. It's right at the gateway to the Ag Tech Park. And with the global reach of UF, it won't take long for the whole world to know where we are and what we do and why we're a great place to be. Also looking forward, I see our population in 10 to 20 years being maybe 10 to 15,000 people. We're going to have the goods and services and commerce here we need to be self-sufficient. Once that happens, guess what? We're not going to be the bedroom community of Gainesville anymore. We're going to have our own identity and be a viable destination city. Thank you.
Candidate Martin, do you need me to repeat the question?
No. I think that's a great answer, and what I think is really our charge on the commission is really kind of a succession plan. The velocity at which things change nowadays is very rapid. We will have the two-way pairs in our rearview mirror by then. That would be up and completely functioning. We will have lots of more commercial districts here and there, and that sort of thing. We were very possibly going to have our own police department at that time. The very campus that we're sitting on here, the city hall campus, is probably going to look a little bit different. Electing leadership to really foster that is going to be key. Excuse me. Thank you. That's really going to be key. And I think giving people the right opportunities, making sure that we have command and make sure that we are preserving the safety nets for the city and the citizens, and to make sure that those pieces are in place will be key to be able to take advantage of that. I really hope that I'm able to really hand off this city in great shape. Financially, we have a municipal per capita debt 1/5 the national average, which I think is absolutely incredible. And I really hope in 20 years we actually have a couple more state championship banners hanging over at the school too.
Thank you very much for that one. Now we're going to move on to our policy questions because there was no audience generated questions for our first category. So our first question to candidate Glanzer: you stated multiple times you would like to get along with Alachua County better. What do you like that they're doing?
Well, it's not so much what I like what they're doing, but I care what they're going to do with Newberry. In the past, there have been, some issues. I mean, counties and cities don't always see eye to eye, but what we do need to do with the county is to work with them. And what happened back in November when they had the election, we have a new board. There's 2 new commissioners who've actually already reached out to me and asked me, actually, what can we do to work together with Newberry? This was huge. So, I think there's potential there already. They've shown great strides in coming to our side. They've, approved some annexations that we had previously had contested. I just feel that with the new blood on the board, so to speak, there's potential for anything to happen. We have to work with them. It doesn't matter if they don't belong to our party or if we disagree with them personally, but they're the board that is going to make it happen for Newberry in many ways. That being said, the county is not the only thing we need to be worried about. We have so many issues in Newberry that have nothing to do with the county that we have under our own control. And those are the things that what we can control, we need to control and do our best with them. But I feel that we can work with the county. I already have, relationships with them, and I feel very confident that the future is bright in working with the county.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Candidate Martin, you have proposed seceding from Alachua County, the eastern border being 34th Street in Gainesville. The voters you propose bringing into the new county are the same residents who voted the current county commission into office. In what ways does renaming the county change the ideology of the new county to fit yours, given that the voters are the same?
Can you repeat the middle part? I couldn't quite hear you.
I'll just read you the question.
Okay.
You have proposed succeeding from Alachua County, the eastern border being 34th Street in Gainesville. The voters you propose bringing into the new county are the same residents who voted the current county commission into office. In what ways does renaming the county change the ideology of the new county to fit yours, given that the voters are the same?
Understood. Okay, well, first of all, the effort for Springs County is something that I do personally. I don't do it from my position here on the commission. In fact, I've only even spoken about it a couple of times here, and that's when somebody else had brought it up. But the line in the discussion about 34th Street has really been one to just start the discussion. We have to start from somewhere. I have no delusions of grandeur that the line will actually be 34th Street. So with reference to whether or not it includes Gainesville, we don't know, because that is ultimately a decision that the state legislature will have to make. And hopefully with the support of our local legislation or legislators, we'll be able to have a better answer for that in the upcoming 22 session.
Thank you.
Okay, now to both candidates. What is your overall approach to government and what do you see as its proper role for Newberry citizens? Candidate one.
Okay. From where I sit, I think it's a very, very high priority for citizens of Newberry that the government needs to focus on what really the government is hired to do. As the commission, we just set the policy. We kind of look out over the horizon and through a mix of analysis and kind of reading the tea leaves, so to speak, and our own best education, we set a course. We hire a city manager who in turn hires a staff to really execute the day-to-day operations and executing that vision. And my hat's off to the staff. I mean, they really do a lot of the heavy lifting. We do, get a lot of credit, but most of the credit really belongs to the city. I think the city manager has done a fantastic job putting people in place to really, really ramp up what the city of Newberry has done. My belief is that folks want government that focuses on the core services. So we're talking infrastructure, we're talking roads, water and wastewater treatment, utilities, things like that. That's what they're telling me that they care about when I'm out and about and I'm talking. So a lot of the things that we deal with nationally are just not really a focus here. Newberry government's gotten too big. It's gotten too expensive. It's gotten too intrusive. And I don't want any of that to happen here in Newberry. And that's what I work on. And that's what I think is important for the citizens of Newberry.
Candidate Lynn.
Thank you. Very simply, the basic function of this commission and this government is to set policy, enact local ordinances, adopt budgets, and levy taxes. This form of town government is the oldest in the United States, and it's probably the purest way to provide our citizens a way to connect directly with the government. Our job as elected officials is to listen to the people. The city is funded primarily with property taxes that's collected by the county. And so because there's really no surprises every year on what the taxes are going to be, we're able to set a budget. And by law, the city has to have a balanced budget. And I'm very proud. I got to give a shout out to Dallas Lee. He's our finance director. Newberry, I don't know if you know this, is in the top 1% of fiscally accountable cities in the United States, as stated by the Government Finance Officers Association. We just got an award a few weeks ago. Dallas can tell you where every penny comes from and where every penny goes. So hats off to that. Beyond those four basic functions I mentioned, the state also authorizes to do more, including land use, planning and zoning, road maintenance, garbage collection, parks and recreation, and even operating a food bank if we so choose. But one real important thing is that I believe Newberry citizens deserve a board who will make sure we have cash reserves. When we have emergencies such as storm damage, utility failures, fire truck needs, and things like that, there has to be cash in reserve. These are the times when it's important that we know we can use grants and take out loans to pay for these things. Spending down cash reserves is not wise.
Your time is
Oh,
up.
it's
Thank
done.
you.
I'm sorry. There was good stuff there.
For the next question, candidate Glanger, you will begin. How will you work with Alachua County leadership on improving their relationship with Newberry, thus making negotiations less conscientious and more productive?
Actually, Newberry's relationship with the BOCC is already improving, and I said a little bit of that in my answer to my question before. In November, we have some of the new board members, and they're already reaching out to us, and I believe we can move forward. The place to start mending relationships is finding common ground. That's what's been missing, and there's plenty of common ground between our county and the city. I mean, starting with the ribbon cutting we had last month of the Alachua County Fairgrounds, including the annexations they approved, including this new regional resource center that they're approving to get built in the rural community that's going to serve Alachua, Newberry, High Springs, and La Crosse with county services. So we don't have to drive downtown to Gainesville anymore. Myself and my former High Springs commissioner, we brought this idea to the county commission just probably in February. And within weeks, they unanimously voted to move forward with due diligence to start working on this project. This shows a huge effort to serve the citizens in the smaller municipalities. It's a huge deal. So you ask how I will work with them. I'm actually already working with all 5 of them on different levels. Coincidentally, I've worked with them on committees, boards, and other organizations where our paths have met over the years. If you live as long as I have, it's no wonder you've met this many people. And it's all about these relationships. We have to maintain these relationships, and I plan to use them for the benefit of Newberry as we move forward with the county. Thank you.
Candidate Martin.
Well, I'm wholly in favor of the All Governments Summit that was kind of spoken about earlier this year. It's something that I had talked with the mayor about. I'm a really big advocate of that. I really do hope that it happens. I'm not sure that it will. I have my doubts, but I remain optimistic that we can make that happen. As I have sat here on the board, my intuition tells me that the county, and we probably kind of diverge here. I don't know that the county really wants to necessarily cooperate with the city of Newberry all that much, unless we are paying for their cooperation or that they're really getting something out of it. The projects like Canterbury, the projects like Champions Park and things like that are, those have benefited the county. That's why they made those things happen. And I would argue that some of the movement on the county's part to try to cooperate even recently has been because of Springs County. And I think that they are seeing the viability of that just like I am and the people who support that. And I think it's that sort of political leverage that is kind of getting them to move a little bit more here recently than what has been happening in the past. So, I see those sorts of things, but I think, maybe the better question is what's Alachua County going to do to improve cooperation with us? And since they're taking most of their marching orders from the city of Gainesville right now, maybe we should even ask the city of Gainesville.
Okay, now we're going to our audience questions, which this first one is for candidate Glanzer. Who on the new county commission has reached out to you, and what would they have you do?
Oh gosh, several of them have. The first one probably was Commissioner Alford. She and I go way back. Our children were in elementary school together, and going on field trips with parents, you get to know them pretty well. She's the one that first asked me, what can we do to work with Newberry on any projects? Please, let's get together and see how we can move forward. Ken Cornell and I, we served on the Board of Realtors as directors many years ago, worked shoulder to shoulder with him on property rights and that kind of thing. He has also told me that he's looking forward to working with the Newberry City Commission in the future, and that we want to make things happen. Commissioner Chestnut, I have worked with him on, gosh, every board and organization that has to do with equal justice and racial equality, and he knows that I'm here, and I can call and pick up the phone anytime if I have questions or want to work with him. I mean, and even my former opponent last year, Anna Pritzia, she has reached out to me to say she looks forward to working with the city. Like, again, I said, it's all about relationships. And when you can have these kind of conversations with the county, it is going to make a difference. I know it hasn't been like that in the past, but it was a different commission. The 2 gentlemen who mostly hotly contested everything that had to do with Newberry, they're gone. They're no longer there. So I feel, and I believe with all my heart, and I'm going to work at it to make sure we have a good relationship with the county and we can get back to doing the business as like we used to do in a good way with them. Thank you.
Our next question is for candidate Martin. Given your lack of participation in the Truth and Reconciliation Project, do you support this idea?
I think there's room for healing. I think there always is. I kind of step back when things become a political football that the race issue has become. There's a black man that sits at my kitchen table almost every Sunday. We have dinner together. I have Black people in my family, so it's not an issue. It's not a matter of issue. I just don't advertise those sorts of things. I think the BLM movement is a Marxist organization-driven movement. I'm not going to participate in those sorts of things. I think the rehashing of it is what creates a lot of friction. And when governments start peddling in that sort of thing, it pits citizens against each other. And I don't want to participate in those sorts of things. It gives me a lot of heartache when I see that, because I don't think it's really necessary. I did go to one of the programs that was over at the Martin Luther King Center at one point, and there was a Black woman who had stood up and she said, you know, I don't like reopening this wound. We talk about it, it drags up bad memories. And she said that none of us were there when these sorts of things happened. So she was not even in favor of reopening these sorts of wounds. I think that the mayor has done a great job at getting that taken care of, and hopefully that's behind us.
Okay, that's all of our questions for the policy section. So now we're going on to our final category, which is our schools and our future. So the first question to candidate Martin: do you support placing a moratorium on new housing construction until school concurrency is met?
Well, it probably would depend what kind of housing we're talking about. I sit on the school board advisory committee. I serve as liaison for the commission. And one of the things that we look at is concurrency. So apartments generate less kids in schools than say single family houses. Retirement communities arguably wouldn't create any children for schools. So it really kind of has to depend what kind of housing we're talking about. If you look on my Facebook page, you'll see that I did talk with the staff back, I think it was fall of 2019. And I did kind of tell them, you know, look, I don't want you to give builders or new builders any sort of false hope that we are going to be able to do a whole lot more development because of the school situation. And at present, the school board isn't doing anything with our schools probably until 2025. They were supposed to break ground on expansion at Oakview November 1st of last year, and that hasn't come to pass yet. And I also know that Commissioner or School Board Member Tina Certain is trying to reset the table with regards to the projects list. So a lot of those things are up in the air, and I encourage citizens that care about these things like I do to make sure that they're calling and emailing the school board members to make sure that their voices are heard and to vote accordingly.
Candidate Glanzer, do you support charter schools?
Yes, I do. In fact, especially for small communities like ours, I know in larger cities, maybe like Miami or LA, they are a drain on the funding that goes to the school boards in those areas. But in small communities like ours, it would not make a big difference, and it would immediately alleviate the overcrowding we have. That was one of the issues I was going to bring up on the next question, because I really do believe that charter schools are going to be the way that we're going to be able to solve these problems in the near future without rezoning. That rezoning is not the answer.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to both candidates now. So starting with candidate Glanzer, do you support rezoning of our schools in order to alleviate overcrowding in Newberry schools? And if not, what is your plan to reduce it?
Well, in my opinion, the school board has one of the toughest, most difficult tasks of all the agencies serving Alachua County. There never seems to be enough of anything to go around. And one universal truth about schools is that they follow growth. They do not go before growth. And there will always be a need before there's capacity. And that's the problem. Not only is there a new sheriff in town, there's a new superintendent of schools. And Miss Simon is there. I think we need to get with her and help her understand the unique needs of our Newberry schools and the overcrowding we're having now. But there's several solutions besides rezoning. We need new schools, but guess what? They're so expensive. A middle school can cost $45 million. A high school can cost $70 million. But I was talking with one school board member yesterday, talking about relationships, and she told me that they're soon going to be doing a study on impact fees and how they may be able to defray the cost of building new schools for the school board. Also being suggested is a concept called clustering, which is done in some other cities, and it's where parents can choose what schools their children go to depending on what their interests are. And then finally, their charter schools. These are the independently owned and operated schools, which could immediately alleviate our overcrowding. All three of these ideas need to be looked into. But what I don't support is moving children from their neighborhood schools. Parents make their greatest and biggest investment when they buy their homes. And parents who have children, they choose their homes depending on where that district is. So we need to preserve the hometown schools. Thank you.
You have the same question?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I actually support parts of rezoning, particularly, for instance, the Archer students who come to the Newberry schools. I think if I'm thinking traffic pattern wise, a lot of parents are probably working in Gainesville from Archer. It makes probably more sense for them to go to the new school that's going to be on Parker Road. So I think there's aspects and I think there's benefits that could be found in rezoning. I'm very hesitant to think that they'll actually impact Newberry very much. I don't think the students from Newberry could get bused over to East Side or to Hawthorne, for instance, where there's actually capacity over on the east side of Gainesville. That just doesn't make intuitive sense. The school board signaled that a while back, and that was shot down pretty quickly. I actually had offered a couple of different solutions to the school board a couple of years ago when we were talking again about the concurrency issues. And I had told them, I said, look, the churches, for instance, are empty 5 days a week, most of them, Monday through Friday. There is an immediate solution to overcrowding. You could let the students go and participate virtually, and that was back then before COVID, in churches. They basically would homeschool at churches. And I think there's a lot of parents who would be in favor of doing those sorts of things. I also had talked about a midterm solution of adding on, and then the long-term solution of just going ahead and building and siting the new school at Parker Road. You know, there was a lot of theater about where we were going to site it, and they had already purchased the property, or had it already set aside rather.
Our second question goes to candidate Martin first. Do you believe more vocational training is needed in Newberry, and how will you work with the school board of Alachua County to increase support of it?
Yes, I believe that could be very beneficial. I think that anytime that we can bring a win-win solution for everybody to the table, it's going to get a lot of traction. And those are the sorts of things that I want to try to promote. Actually, a couple of years ago, I had started talking with a couple of businesses about actually doing some sort of a co-op where we had a central location, and every week, maybe we taught plumbing. Maybe the next week we talked about electrical. We talked about painting, mechanics, something like that. You know, kind of was a little bit troubled because we didn't really have a good location to do that. But as I'm kind of thinking through it these days, we could certainly do that at the individual businesses, at Coleman Plumbing, at B&D Electric. We could do something like that at RPM Auto or something like that. Those are skills that we can use whether we're adults or kids. So although vocational training sometimes tends to focus on the trades at a high school level, I think there's probably a lot of parents, myself included, who could benefit from something like that. So vocation is perfectly fine. I think we could potentially even incorporate something like that in our charter school program if that's the direction that we think is going to gain a little bit of traction. But it's all still about service ultimately to the students and to the community and what's going to be best for them. And I think that's where leadership comes in, making those decisions and finding the balance.
Okay, so now we have our audience questions. So,
I didn't get to answer that.
oh, I'm
one.
so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I'm a huge fan of VOTEC. Now it's called CTE, I think, Career Technical Education. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to work at out of Trenton High School with their Gold Seal program. And that's where they would bring people from the outside and teach the students their trade. My trade at the time was graphic design. So I got to see up close how important those VOTEC programs are. Newberry High offers the Gold Seal program in digital design, criminal justice, culinary arts, and I think ag science. And I'm in favor of expanding those courses to include the trades, automotive, plumbing, electrical. There used to be courses offered at Santa Fe College in these for our high school kids, but I think a few years ago there was an issue with the FTEs there, so they stopped that program. I would like to propose that we engage the school board again, go back to the table with Santa Fe and see if we can negotiate having that program start again. Because I feel that, students need to have a plan in their education. And if they plan to do the trades, we need to identify them as early as possible so that we can start training them so that to ensure their success. Thank you.
Okay, now with our audience questions. So candidate Martin, this one's towards you. Newberry is currently growing. You stated on social media regarding new residents moving to Newberry, you are welcome, but leave your politics at the door. How do you justify this statement in light of such significant population growth?
Well, I think about a T-shirt that I've seen on Facebook. It says, "Don't New York my Florida." And I stand by the statement because I think of Newberry as a character community, and I see the trouble that is in Gainesville. I see the trouble in the trajectory of Alachua County, promoting a lot of social engineering, again, promoting things like BLM and Antifa from the Gainesville mayor. We are dealing with an escapism problem, and I don't want to see those things sort of start to trickle in and damage our community, damage the character that we have here. So I do think that the politics need to stay at the city line. If you are going to be sort of promoting those sorts of things, I stand by the statement. If anybody wants to ask me any further questions, they can give me a call. My phone number is 352-474-1022. They can email me. I'm not hard to find, but I do stand by the statement.
Thank you. Our next audience question is for both candidates. This citizen is concerned that Newberry is growing too fast and losing its small town feel. How would you address this? Candidate Belanger, you can begin.
I think that's a question that's been asked since I've been here for 40 years. People think we're growing too fast. I grew up in Miami. And so when I came here, it was a bit of a culture shock being in a small town with one stoplight. 40 years later, we still have one stoplight. So, I see all the housing going up and that kind of thing. But what we're charged with is making sure we have the infrastructure to, serve that growth and make sure it's done in a smart way. When the one-way pairs come, that's going to alleviate a lot of the issues with our traffic and that kind of thing. We do preserve our small town feel. We still have our Watermelon Festival. It's the oldest running one in the country. We have festivals downtown in the fall and the spring. And if you take a stroll down our 2 or 3 block historic district, you can see a lot of great little shops and businesses open. So we really do the best we can to preserve it, but nothing is forever. Things change. That's the nature of life. So as best we can, we'll try to preserve that small town feel. But it's more than just what it looks like. It's who we are. We are, I don't know if you want to say small town people, but we have that mentality where we know our neighbors, we help our neighbors, and we're always there in times of need. So that's the important thing, not so much how it looks like, but how we are as a population.
Thank you. Candidate Martin? Of course. This citizen is concerned that Newberry is growing too fast and losing its small town feel. How would you address this?
Well, I think maybe my opponent has a little bit better answer. She's a realtor with regards to that. The city really only has so much at its disposal necessarily. A lot of the growth that we're seeing right now is stuff that was kind of in the pipeline before the 2008 housing had kind of went south. So those developers are exercising on their rights nowadays. I think if we are going to be looking at the concurrency again with schools, I think that's probably going to curb some of that. But again, it's going to depend what kind of housing we are looking at. I don't want to be accused or charged with hampering those things intentionally and being an anti-growth or anything like that. I think there is room for managing that sort of thing. And we're kind of at a little bit of a game of chicken. You know, I hear people talk about getting commercial stuff into town. Well, the commercial wants to see the rooftops, but sometimes the rooftops want to see the commercial. So it is a little bit of a balancing act to try to figure out. And I think that's where good leadership comes from.
Thank you, candidate Martin. Before we go into our crossfire, I'm going to go back to a question from one of our audience members in policy, and this question is for candidate Glanter. Why would the county commissioners reach out to you and not the current city commission to work on repairing relationships?
I'll repeat what I've been saying all night. It's about relationships. And maybe it's because I'm so old. You know, I have been around so long that at least 3 of them have crossed paths with me for up to 40 years, Commissioner Alford being the first one. So it's natural. It's not just now that they've started calling me. Well, I didn't know the other 2 that just got, unelected or didn't run. But the ones that are there, they are people that I respect for what they do in their community. We have relationships based on our professional jobs we've been in over the years. As I said, Commissioner Cornell and I worked on the Board of Realtors as directors many years ago. So it hasn't just happened now, not just since this election. I've had relationships for a long time with them, and I hope to have more in the future, and I hope to strengthen them in the future. And as we grow and as we work together, it's going to be even more important to take care of those relationships. And I think any commissioner on this dais right now could pick up the phone and call them. I think it's that different. I think they would take the call, listen to them. You just have to reach out and build a relationship. They don't just happen. It takes a lifetime sometimes to foster these relationships. And I'm grateful for the ones that I have, and I've continued that.
Okay, so now we will begin our crossfire portion, and crossfire will consist of the 2 candidates asking questions to each other for a total of 5 minutes. So it's going to start with candidate Glanberg.
Well, I don't really have a question. I just have a comment, and that is, it's very disturbing to me when you say leave your politics at the city limits. You know, I think we need to represent everybody. I don't care about your politics, your color, your creed. We are elected by the people to represent the people. When you say, oh, I don't like it that you might be this or that, well, I can't help it. If that's who you are, you came by it honestly. And I think we need to respect people, the differences, even as much as our similarities. It's the human thing to do. I really feel that it's essential, and I will represent all the people. I celebrate diversity in thought, and diversity not only in race and gender, but in thought. And so I will respect that and celebrate it. And I just wanted to make that clear.
Ms. Clancy, do you think that the county commission is calling you because your politics align more with them than perhaps some of the things here in Newberry?
You know, I don't know if it's politics. I sound like a broken record. I think it's the relationships. You know, when you say politics, this is a nonpartisan board. We have to make decisions on issues that are completely unrelated to whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Personally, I can't help it that all 5 of our county commissioners are Democrats. You know, I just can't do anything about it. So the best I can do is work with them in every way I possibly can. Again, we don't have a choice. We can't go to another commission and, you know, pick and choose. This is who we have, and we are the commission they have to deal with. So I know we are probably different parties than that county commission. And maybe in the past that did create some issues. I don't know. All I know is that I stand for working with people regardless of their party. And if people want to think that it's, you know, I've got something going on with them on the side, they can think that, but that's not true. It is a wholesome, organic relationship that I've created with these people.
Ms. Glanzer, I actually have the copy of the questionnaire that you had sent over to the Sierra Club. And I think there's a lot of things in here that would be very troublesome to Newberry, particular people in agriculture, particularly people in that are in the mining community at all. I mean, you called the people in Tallahassee unintelligent. You are charging, you're wanting to charge for plastic bags at Publix. You wanted to use funds from the county commission to actually create reusable bags and get them distributed. You talk about wanting to promote the regional wastewater plant, but in the questionnaire you talk about not wanting to extend water lines or sewer lines. So I don't know how you kind of square that circle, and how do you get the water and the wastewater to this regional plant without running extension water lines and sewer lines to the reusable or to the regional wastewater plant?
That's a lot to unpack. First of all, I'm an environmentalist and I'm proud of it. I'm a conservationist and I believe that we need to take care of our environment. We don't have another chance to do that in this lifetime or the next. Secondly, that wastewater treatment plant is going to eliminate a lot of septic tanks. And what I was talking about there, running lines, I don't want sewer lines running from Gainesville to Archer. That was, in my mind, what I was talking about. That's not prudent, and I don't think that's a good idea. The wastewater, the regional wastewater plant that the mayor has been proposing is completely different. It's going to start eliminating those septic tanks, and I think that's the number one thing we can do as an environmentalist and as a conservation, someone who's is in charge of conserving our environment. I think that was all the three things you said. You know, I don't apologize for being on the side of the environment. I think there's got to be a partnership, and I think it has to work with, you know, I'm in business too. So I think there has to be a happy medium. We have to work with environmentalists while we're working with developers. It's not, and it's complicated. What did you say? It's flipping complicated. You know, it's just not easy. And that's why the leadership is important. We have to merge, you know, our life to make it all work. You can't just say it's black and white. There are shades of gray, and that's the waters we have to navigate. There's just no way around it. So that's my answer.
Well, I too think there's an important measure of making sure that we safeguard the environment, that sort of thing. But you know, when you talk about enthusiastically, do you support developing a climate compact for North Central Florida? Do you agree to that? Yes, enthusiastically. you
Unfortunately,
agree.
that's the end of our crossfire time. So
And now we will have our closing statements, starting with Mr. Martin.
Well, thank you very much for putting on the debate once again. I hope that we've been able to kind of ferret out some of the differences between the two of us tonight. But for anybody that's new to Newberry, just by way of introduction, my name is obviously Tim Martin. I'm 48 years old. Tomorrow will be my 20th anniversary with my wife. We have 2 kids here in the public school. I have a degree from the University of Florida in the College of Agriculture. It's food and resource economics degree with a business minor management. So if we're looking at the Ag Tech Park as a catalyst, which I wholeheartedly support, I think I'm the more qualified candidate for those sorts of things. I think what we are going to be doing looking forward is planning for the future, creating a succession plan for people who come after us. I've often said, sitting up here on this dais, that we sit on the shoulders, we have the gift of sitting on the shoulders of some really great people in this town. I hope that the people that sit on this commission now will also be included in that in years to come. But in that way of setting up that succession is, I think that we may be at a point where we can promote a Leadership Newberry program, set the bar, set the standard, and begin building the bench strength for the people that will come after us. I hope to have earned your vote throughout the last several years that I've been serving here in Newberry. And please, please check out my Facebook page. If you have any questions, please call me. Again, my number is 352-474-1022. If I'm available, I pick up the phone. And just to reiterate, I think that the people in Newberry are concerned about government doing what it's hired to do. Focus on our core services of infrastructure, roads, utilities, wastewater. And that's what sorts of things that you can expect from me.
Thank you. Candidate Glanzer?
Thank you. In closing, I just want to thank everybody for listening tonight. Thank you to our supporters who worked tirelessly this last month or so. And thanks to you who came tonight with an open mind to hear the answers to these questions. I've come to do the hard work. While our future looks bright, we've got a lot of bridges to rebuild and a lot of ground to cover. And no one said that's going to be easy. But I believe in Newberry and the spirit behind it. There's no issue we can't overcome as long as we look forward and not back, and as long as we work with our counterparts and not against them. Someone said on Facebook recently that I was all gumdrops and rainbows, and I don't think it was a compliment really they were making. And I have been known to have the happy gene, as some friends have described it. But trust me, I'm a hard negotiator and I get results. We all have our own ways and means of negotiating and accomplishing our tasks, and we just need to be true to who we are and know what we want. Those who came before me in the leadership of Newberry left a legacy that I honor. We'll never stop believing we can do the big things, and we'll never stop doing the smallest things for all of our citizens. I will represent everyone, whether or not we agree. What matters to me is that you're all heard. I've lived here for 40 plus years, and my husband and I raised 4 children. We had 6 businesses downtown, and I've seen many changes, but I've never, ever been more excited about what we're becoming, a leader among leaders in small cities of our size. So I hope you'll join me in this mission. I promise you we're going to do great things. I give all the glory to God, and I give deep thanks to my family. They've always stood beside me in every mission I ever went after, and there's been plenty of those. I couldn't have done any of them without them. So don't forget to vote April 13th. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask for your vote. Go to Joy Glanzer, the Facebook of Joy Glanzer for Newberry City Commission. And thank you very much.
This concludes our program. Thank you, candidates, and thank you all for attending. We hope this debate has helped you make your decision. We recommend that you make sure your voice is heard by casting your vote on April 13th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and voting will take place at the municipal building. Everyone, please drive safe and have a good night. Thank you.